I'm Tracy and I'm from the Team12. Now I'm doing the presentation about our assignment 3. Our assignment 3 is about use cases and motivations for building a machine learning model using the Landing Club dataset. And first, let us look at the abstract. What we do, what our role is economic consulting company, and our aim is to recommend the company the best strategy to loan money to the people that can obtain the maximum profits. And I will do this presentation according to the text 1 to the text 5. So at first, let me introduce our text 1 to you. The text 1 is framing part, and in the part 1, what we need to do is research and summarizing what our clients needs. Our client is an economic consulting firm which interested in understanding how customers of Landing Club can provide lending indicator on the economic and lending. And in order to know what is the economic consulting firm, and I will need to do an explanation on it, because before this assignment I don't have a really clearly concept on it. The economic consulting is a type of paralegal work. It offers experts to testify in litigation matters related to economics and finance. And take the Smith Economic Group as an example. The Smith Group delivers top-notch economic and financial analysis and applies the solve problems and creativities. Now the Smith Group is want to optimal lending indicator on the economic and lending, and it chose our team to complete this case study according to the dataset of the customers of Landing Club. Therefore, our goal is to find the most stable customers attribution at the same time they can get as much money as possible. And in the part 2, we conclude some keys from the graphs which Landing Club has generated. And first, this is the first graph, and we can know that according to the total loan insurance, we can know that the total number is gradually increasing every year, and the rate of increase is accelerating. It represents that the company still have a lot of space to improvement, and the market is still not saturated. And this is the second graph, and we can note that the lenders' main purpose, the more than half of them aim to refinancing existing loans or pay off their credit card. And from this graph, we can note that the degree of development is problem related to the economic level of each state. And in the next two graphs, we can note that there are two factors influence the adjusted net annualized return. The first one is average age of portfolio, and the second one is deliver the function of the investment. And the first factor is the average age of portfolio. We can know that the higher average age of the notes in the portfolio, the more stable the annual interest rate of the investment. In the first 9 months, and the rate is decreasing, and after the 9 months, they will get a stable returns. And from these two graphs, we can know that another important factor is the diversification of investment. And the diversification account has generally experienced less volatility and more solid returns than investors with more concentrated holdings. So, for those risk-averse investors, we can know that it is a good idea to choose to invest their all funds separately into different notes. And there are some charts to describe different grades, development, and composition. At first, we can note that there are different interest rates into different class, and the A is the interest rate, the most small one. And from this graph, we can know that there are different composition about the different class. And now there are more and more people choose some A, B, C grades with high stability, and high risk levels, just like G, is more gradually abandoned by the public. And from this graph, we can know that returns are gradually decreasing every year. And the text one, what we also need to do is just comment on the data quality and the features. All the data we have, including 819,000 records formed by 75 attributes. And what we can learn is from the data dictionary is that it provides many and clearly explanation for the meanings of each attribute. And what we want to do is understand the data dictionary at first, and then manually analyze the data set and how to manual it, how to deal with it. I will introduce it in the task 2. And in the task 2, what we do is do the data preparation. And in the part 1, we do the data cleaning, pre-processing, and do feature engineering. And first, we can know that we need to spend a lot of time to process the data cleaning. At first, we deleted the record that more than 15% are empty. From the code, you can know that there are some attributes that nearly 816,000 is none. So many value is empty, so we can delete it first. Second, we deleted with some data that is not directly related to this analysis. For this attribute, we can delete them. And in the third part, there are some. We can know that all the record can divide into individual and joint situation. What we want to analyze is the individual transaction. So we can just delete all the records that related to the joint situation. And then we conclude some key attributes to continue next steps. And these steps, and this attribute can divide into 3 parts. The first one is personal info, the second one is interest rate, and the third one is related to the credit records. At last, because some of attributes are string or some other types, what we need to do is transform them into integer state. Just take the home ownership as an example. We change the different state for rent or mortgage into 0, 1, 2, 3. Just let's take it. And after finish the part 1, we just do some introduce about the feature toys process data preparation. And what is the feature toys? Feature toys is a framework to perform automated feature engineering. It excels at transforming temporary and relation dataset into feature metrics for machine learning. And we just install it and do the specific implementation. And from the code, we can know that there are not much coding numbers, but we can realize our functions. We split the raw data into 2 parts: the personal information and the raw information. And then, according to the feature toys, we can obtain a feature matrix which contains the feature what we need. And according to the past 2 part, what we want to conclude is we just make a compare with the manual feature engineer and with the feature toys. And the feature engineer is a process of collecting data set and the construction the variables. At first we know do it by ourselves, which is the manual feature engineer. We know it will spend so much time and it is make some errors on it. And the code for the manual feature engineer is really a specific problem, and you need to write different code for different dataset. But all this problem can be solved through the automatic feature engineer. And it uses frameworks to automatically extract useful and meaningful features from a set of related data tables. And it improves the traditional standard workflows. So there are some benefits to use the feature toys. And then what I want to state is the text 3 predictions. We have some features that matter to our predicted target feature. In our case, as an economic consulting company in this landing club, we need to evaluate the landing feasibility grade of customers based on this information. So, in the trained models, if we want to predict both grade, then qualify them and put the numbers into our trained model. And we have 3 manual model and 3 machine learning, and we can predict it and so this part. And first, what we need to do is the model design. And we choose the independent and dependent variables for the input of the model, and there are some independent variables and some independent variables. And we want the machine learning to figure out the relationship between interest rate and the other variables. So I will introduce the 3 models to this way. And the first is the linear regression. The linear regression is one of the most simplest and most popular model method, and it fits a straight line to set of data values. The form of the function was right in there, that y equals a0 and this. And we can know from the coding that x equals data, and we can input the different data and divide it into train site and test site, and at last conclude our result. From the model 1, we can get different values, and we also do the get the values after 5-fold cross-validation. The second model is the random forest. The random forest is a type of a detailed models that make predictions by combining decisions from a sequence of base models. And the final model is a sum of simple base, and this is according what we did, and we can know the MAPE values at 2, and this value is better than the first one. In the third model, what we do is about the neural networks. The neural networks provide models of data relationships through highly interconnections. And some neurons may send the feedback to early neurons in the network. And this we also can call the use related coding to finish and obtain the desired output. And this is the MAPE values, and it is more better. In the text 4, we will introduce the hyperparameter tuning, and the hyperparameter tuning is made some optimization techniques, and there are also 3 methods to deal with it. At first, the first method is the regression, and there are 2 different to update before the formal coding, and we can know that after the L1 regularization and L2 regularization, we can get the new MAPE value. And after the hyperparameters, we can use what we update in the neural network is that we can set the learning rate is consistent, and set the initial learning rate is 0.01. And there are 2 layers in the header layer size, and the first layer is 5 nodes, second layer is 2 nodes. This is the value we get. The third one is a random forest, and there are 200 trees, each with a depth of 12. So we get the MAP is 7, 7, and 8. The effect of hyperparameter tuning is that the hyperparameters are the adjustment that control our model structure, functions, and the efficiency, such as learning rate, number of head layers. What we more and more hyperparameters tuning process are done, and it aims to find optimal hyperparameters in a short time using more advanced strategy. And then in the part 2, we got some model using the machine learning. Automated machine learning provide method and process to make machine learning available for non-machine learning experts to improve efficiency of machine learning to accelerate research on machine learning. The first one is TPOT. TPOT is a Python automatic machine learning tool to optimize the machine learning pipelines using genetic programming. And what is the main role? We can get something from this graph that it can help us to do the feature selection and feature pre-processing and model selection. All this it can help us to do it. They have some benefits for us to save time and and it can intelligent exploring thousands of possible pipelines to find the best one of your data. And the step of install the TPOP is just install the library and then install the TPOT. And the coding is just like this. And we just pass it. And the second method is use auto-scale learning. Auto-scaler is also an automatic machine learning to click and a drop-in replacement for a sketch learning estimate. In the method 3, we know something about H2O.AI, and H2O is a fully open source distributed in-memory machine learning library with linear scalar ability. There are also a website to introduce some knowledge about H2O.AI, and it has an industry-leading automation learning functionality that automatically runs through all the algorithms and their hyperparameters to produce a leaderboard of the best models. It can be used for automating the machine learning workflow, which includes automatic training and training of many models with a user-specific time limited. And first, we need to install it, and after set up it, we can see the following cluster information. There's different clusters, and then we just finish the coding part to get the last values. And this is the result of the MAPE values of 3 methods. In the last task, we need to do report about this about our model. And there's no doubt that we have still many problems with our data models, and in practical considerations, it cannot be run in the real world. And there are 2 problems. The first one is that the processing of attributes is not perfect, and there are still many variables do not analyze their characteristics. And the second problem is that the process of feature process need to be further improved. We can only use the interface for analysis at present, and the internal logic related we cannot understand it. So this is our assignment 3 presentation. Thanks for your listening.